Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today, basically doing something a bit different, as you can tell by the title. I thought it'd be a good idea if I ranked every film I saw in 2020. Normally I'd see a lot more than what I did see this year, but due to COVID, a lot of films got delayed, postponed, and yeah, I saw a total of 13 films, some in cinema and some just on TV. Basically, I thought I would rank them from worst to best. If you guys have any different opinions, please leave in the comments below. And if you're not already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Trying to hit 50 subs before July, because that's like when I first started this channel. There'd be a year. Basically, if this isn't your first video of mine watching and you haven't subscribed, you might as well subscribe. Like, turn on that notifications so you get more videos daily. I post 2 to 3 times a week. Let's get to the video. Coming in at 13th place is Underwater, starring Kristen Stewart and TJ Miller. If you guys don't know who those actors are, you can search them up, but I'll just give you a little hint. Kristen Stewart was Bella from Twilight, and TJ Miller was Weasel from Deadpool. I'm pretty sure that's that character's name. He's a sidekick. Basically, what Underwater is about these researchers. They're down in the Mariana Trench, and after their facility goes underwater, I believe a wave hits them or something. It randomly crashes, and they must get to the safety pods in the main facility by walking on the seafloor with suits. But what they don't know is that there are these monsters that live under there, and they have to try and survive them. Why does this film last? That's the real question, I guess. There wasn't really a story to this film. I mean, there was no explanation on why this all happened. I mean, it just quickly rushed into what happened of the story. Like, you didn't get a lead up, like, oh no, looks like our facility is about to go underwater. There was nothing of that. It basically just quickly rushed into what was happening, so you didn't really get a build up, and that's what I think most films need, especially stuff like this. Not to mention the fact that this film was very predictable. I mean, a lot of scenes you could kind of tell was going to happen, and yeah, it wasn't too good. The main character, Kristen Stewart's character, wasn't needed in the film, to be honest. I feel like her character was kind of irrelevant, and you could have just had any of the other characters play her role, and it wouldn't have changed the story. I mean, there was one scene where they were in these suits, and they had to get under this little crash site to get to the other side, and Kristen Stewart said, "Oh, I will go under because I'm the smallest." Thing is, all of them had suits that were the exact same size. Hold up, my cat was just trying to get under my bed for some reason. Basically, they were in these big suits, and she said, "I will go under because I'm the smallest." Thing is, all of them were wearing the exact same type of suit, so this was the only way they could introduce her character and say she has an important role in this film. Honestly, they also killed off some of the best characters. Like, I feel like TJ Miller's character was killed off pretty early. Even he was the funniest one, but you know the funny one's always going to die for some reason. I feel like the one good thing they did with this film was the suspense. Like, it was kind of like thrilling, waiting for something to happen, like the jump scares, but you could kind of see them coming. So yeah. Also to mention the monsters. I don't know how none of them knew that these things were under there. I mean, there was like a million of them in the main facility. Has no one gone there for some reason? But they had this big Godzilla-sized one. It was like massive compared to them. How do you not know that thing's living under there? I mean, that was the one part that made me question this. But overall, I wouldn't say to check this film out. I mean, if it's on and you feel like watching it, go ahead, watch it. I don't really care. But it's not the best film. It was not the best film of 2020, and that's why it's coming in last place. Alright, number 12 is Lowdown Dirty Criminals, starring James Rolleston, Robbie Magasiva, and Cohen Holloway. I don't know how many of you, depends I guess where you were in the world. Actually no, it doesn't even depend. I don't know how many people even knew that this was a film this year, but it's a New Zealand film where basically these two guys, these two poor friends, you know, they're trying to make a living, so they decide to work for a crime boss and become criminals. This film is very low budget. It wasn't particularly an amazing film to watch, and there was a bit of wasted talent for this movie. James Rollison got the main role, so it was good to see him back in the movie scene. But Robbie McSeaver and Cohen Holloway, two big actors in the New Zealand game, they weren't used enough in this film. I mean, they were two henchmen to this person that I don't even know who she was. But they deserved a lot more scene in this film, and I feel like it's kind of unnecessary to include these two big actors and then not use them to their full potential. The scenes were kind of generic. There were a few funny one-liners in this film, but it wasn't enough to save it. Not to mention there was an entire 2 minutes of the scene where the main girl, the villain, she was cutting open this fat guy because she thought he ate a diamond. So she was just cutting him open and was showing unnecessary gore. There was no need for that scene. But this film isn't the worst film, obviously. It's in 12th place, but I don't think you should pay for it. You can watch it if you want. It had funny one-liners that New Zealanders will understand, but overall it's not particularly a good film. And I have to mention the guy, because it's called Low Down Dirty Criminals. It was James Rollison and this other guy. I think that was the introduction to movies for that other one. He got taken out of the film so quick. He ended up just being kidnapped, and James Rollison ended up having the whole movie. But yeah, this film it was alright, but it's not a great film. Alright, coming in at 11th is Birds of Prey. Came out in March, I believe. Stars Margot Robbie and Ewan McGregor. I don't know why this film's called Birds of Prey. It really should have just been called Harley Quinn and the extras or something. Because, it was mainly Harley Quinn. You got introduced to other characters in Birds of Prey, such as Black Canary and Huntress. Yeah, and you didn't get enough of those two characters. In fact, the only fight scene you really got to see them to was at the end. Black Canary, you know her power. If you guys know her power, she basically screams and it sends a sound wave or something. Yeah, scene was used once in the entire film. I mean, there was a lead up in the beginning where it showed her singing, and then she broke a glass. And it's like, is that it? Yeah, but she was not used enough in this film. Yeah, that's why the interesting characters were ignored. The Huntress looked like she could have had a very good story, but they barely used her in this film. It was basically a bunch of different stories. This film basically had each character in separate stories. They didn't really bring them together until the end, so it wasn't really a Birds of Prey. And I feel like they focused a lot more on Harley Quinn. This film was based when Harley Quinn broke up with Joker, and all the people who Joker protected her from basically were trying to come back and kill her because they knew that she didn't have the safety of him. But this film could have been so much better. Ewan McGregor wasn't a bad villain. I thought he did alright in the role. But yeah, this film wasn't amazing. It was very comic book like, and there's a lot of unnecessary narration I didn't think they needed for this film. This film did have a really good final scene. The action sequence where it brought all the Birds of Prey characters together and they all fought against the villains, that's what we needed more in this film. If they had those type scenes a lot more, this film could have been so much better. But if you feel like watching a film, I guess go watch this. Don't pay for it though. But it was alright. It's not something I would particularly like to watch again, but it's there. Right, coming in at number 10 is The New Mutants. Basically, this film stars Anya Taylor-Joy and Maisie Williams, and it's basically about these mutants who are being tested on, thinking that are going to become X-Men. Turns out they're being trained to become villains. This film focused on 5 main characters. It was Magic, Cannonball, Sunspot, Wolfsbane, and I don't know the other character, which is weird because that was the main one. But her character name was Danny. I feel like they didn't focus enough on the characters that finally got some screen time. If you guys know, Sunspot has been in an X-Men film before. He was in X-Men Days of Future Past, I believe. His character was just used to be extra there. He got no speaking lines. All he did in that movie was just scream. Like, ah! And use his powers. This one, basically the same thing. We didn't get enough showing his power. I mean, he kind of seemed too scared to use it. Cannonball, I thought it was cool to see him finally get a role, but he wasn't used enough. His powers weren't used as much as you'd like in this film. Wolfsbane, I thought she was a bit stronger in the comics, but they didn't use her enough in this film. All she did was kind of just rip off the villain's face. I guess that is useful. And Dani, her powers are to make the fears? Why was I going to say it like that? The fears of everyone around her come to life, which was quite an interesting take. Magik, they definitely used her character well. They actually showed her power off a lot. She could have easily been the main character instead. But this film was decent. I wouldn't say it's bad. But if we're talking about how long we had to wait for this film to finally be released, it just was not worth it, man. It was supposed to come out in 2018 and it came out 2 years later. And it didn't even earn back its budget, man. This film wasn't worth it. I mean, it was an interesting take on the X-Men for once, but it's not something worth watching again. I mean, if it comes on, I guess I'll watch it. If it comes on TV, maybe if it's on Netflix, I'll watch it or something. But it just wasn't worth the wait, man. And not to mention the ending scene was just completely random and stupid. I mean, they had to fight a bear because that was Dani's fear. You know, that rhymed. I can be a rapper. Like, all she did was just be scared of it the entire time, and then at the end she's like, I'm not scared of you, and then the bear's like, oh, okay, well, I better leave. It was a stupid ending. Like, yeah. So, I don't know. It was alright. It wasn't the worst film I saw this year. But yeah, that's 10th. Alright, in 9th place is Bloodshot, starring Vin Diesel and Guy Pearce. First film I think I've seen Vin Diesel in for a while, other than Fast and Furious. This movie had some really cool action scenes. I saw the trailer and it got me actually hyped for it. I thought it looked really cool. But it could have been better. Honestly, the story seemed rushed and repetitive at most times. Like, he would just be pushed back and they'd restart each time. So basically what it is that he's been lied to all this time. He thinks that he's going to kill people that killed his wife. Turns out they're brainwashing him, where he's just being a hitman for basically people that they want killed. The facility, Guy Pearce's one. I thought the power of Bloodshot, like the unique power, I thought that was really cool how he'd get shot and it would kind of just reform back into his face. That was a cool take. But this film just wasn't there for me. I mean, it had so much potential to be so better, but it just wasn't. I mean, it was enjoyable enough, the action scenes were very cool, the characters were very cool, but overall, it just wasn't a film to watch. But I would say check it out, because it is cool, the action scenes are very worth it, but the story isn't there. The action is what saves it. And Vin Diesel, of course, he's very good at action movies, and he definitely proved it here. This film, if they make a sequel, I hope they learn how to make the story a lot better, but it's definitely a film worth watching.